Okay, can you see my screen for the Word document? Showing all the questions? Okay, great. So we will quickly do some of these patterns and try to understand, starting with the beginner's pattern, like how to get started with these smaller patterns, and then we will jump on to the Space Needle bigger pattern we have. So I believe like directly jump the two static methods we have written so far require some of the understanding of creating a pattern, and creating a pattern comes from the understanding of nested for loops. So as you can see, take a look. When it comes to nested for loops or just for loops, why we are using loops? We are using loops when we have something repeating, right? So if something is repeating, we use a loop. But when you have rows and column kind of scenario, there you use nested for loops, rows or columns, or I would say a multiple column scenario, like you have, for example, with stars, you have another spaces, something else, which we will see in the next examples. Then you use two loops like we need, and those loop within a loop is known as nested loop. And the purpose of nested loop and how that nested loop works, that the inner loop will become false. It will run 5 times or 10 times, whatever the condition you have written. As it becomes false, then it will increment the outer loop. So if you have something more repetitive, which we will discuss right now with the next example. So let's get started with the basic one. Take a look at this pattern. So take a look. What do you think? How many loops do you need, and what will be the task? Don't cheat, don't Google, don't open your PowerPoint slides, don't open your notes, nothing. Just from your understanding. It's an open class discussion, so nothing is being graded and nothing is being identified as a good student or a bad student. No, I have no idea. Right now with the participant list, I will be just looking at your reactions and the chat. So I'm not taking notes or taking names, nothing is doing so. I just want you to just have your pen and papers with you and start writing a draft, or I would say a dry run of the code, like how this will work, how you will create this pattern, what comes in your mind when you have to create this pattern. So use the chat, tell me where to get started, how to get started, what's the first thing, how you are, if you have this pattern to print, what are the things you're looking for, what are the scenarios you're looking for, what loops comes into your mind, what you're thinking. The outer loop usually is the rows and the inner loop is the column. So how many rows do you think we have? We are using for loop because we know how many times or how many stars we need to print. Now, how do we identify that we are printing a nested loop? What gives you the idea that you're printing a nested loop? We have 5 rows. So it means the rows are always your outer loop and columns are your inner loop. So as you can see, how many stars do we have in the column? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 stars. It means the inner loop will run how many times? 10 times. And the outer loop, how many rows do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it means your outer loop will run 5 times. Let me switch my screen to Eclipse. And let me bring my Eclipse on this screen. Be easier. And we will come, don't worry, we will definitely complete our Space Needle, but we will go step by step, sharing my screen of Eclipse. So let's print. Can you see my Eclipse? Let's go in, it's the Space Needle. Let's go in variable store Java. Let's change this class. Okay, so let's take a look what we have. So you are printing. Where's my keyboard? Okay, so let's get started. We have public static void main, we have string, square brackets, arguments, and starting curly braces and ending curly braces. Now inside we have to print that pattern where we have a pattern where we have int I equals to 1, I will be less than equals to 5 because we have number of 5 rows, right? I plus plus and starting curly braces, ending curly braces. Now inside, how many columns of stars do we have? There were 10. So it means for loop again, int j equals to 1, j will be less than equals to 10, and j plus plus. Now inside of this j loop, what you want just this j loop to print not the ln part, only the print, because we are printing the star in the same line. So when it comes to I, we are on the same line. So you can say star, you can say any other symbol if you have. After this j loop ends, which is over here, after this j loop becomes false, enter, you have to shift your cursor to the new line. System.out.println, we have just simple println. So it means move it to the new line. So let me create, there was a feature called whiteboard. It's gone now. I don't see it now. Okay. I think with screen share, you don't see it. So let's annotate. Okay, so we have I equals to 1. I equals to, oops, it's not gonna work with this. Let's use text. See, text will work. Okay, so if I equals to 1, right? So is I is less than equals to 5? Is 1 is less than equals to 5? This condition becomes true. You go inside of j loop. What do you have? This is your j loop. J is equals to 1, and then you check the condition. Is 1 is less than equals to 10? That's your condition, right? Is 1 is less than equals to 10, which is true. 1 is less than equals to 10. And then system.out.println, it says print a star. So this is where your output is printing. And then enter, you have j plus plus. J is now, j is equals to 2, which is you did j plus plus. So this loop will keep on running, because as you said, printed star, it go back to the j loop. It says, because j loop is not false yet. So as long j loop is true, you will not increment your I loop. So j is 1, j is less than equals to 10, yes. Then j plus plus, j is now 2. Is 2 is now, you will check, is 2 is less than equals to 10, which is true. Then you say system.out.print a star on the same line, and then you have j plus plus again, and j is now equals to 3. Is 3 is less than equals to 10, which is true. Print a star. So you will print 10 stars, because as long your j loop doesn't become false. And when your j loop will be false, when your j is equals to 11. So after printing 10 stars, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, so it will print 10 stars. And as your j becomes 11, is 11 is less than equals to 10? No, it's not less than equals to 10. Stop this j loop. So as you come outside of j loop, it says system.out.println, move my cursor to the new line, which is like this. So your cursor is now blinking to a new line, and you are inside of this I loop. This is where your I loop is becomes false. So you or ends, you go back, you say I plus plus, I is now 2. So after doing all of these things, Control X, it goes here, Control V, and I will just put dot 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 as long your j is equals to 11. So after this one iteration where your I was 1, you have printed one line of stars, which is 10. Then you said your cursor is now blinking on a new line, and your I is incremented. I is now 2. Is 2 is less than equals to 5? 2 is less than equals to 5. True. You go inside, and now what happens to your j? Your j is set back to 1. It's not 11. Your j is set back to 1. That's what the feature of your inner loop. So your j is 1. your 1, you say 1 is less than equals to 10. So it means this J loop will run 10 times again on the same cursor. So your cursor is blinking on this line. So it will print 10 stars again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as your J becomes 11, J is 11, sorry, 11, your loop becomes false. And then as you come outside of this loop, you have system.out.println. It means move my cursor, which is blinking right on this same line, to a new line, enter. And now your cursor is blinking to a new line. You go outside and then you have I plus plus. Your I is now 3, right? So your I is 3. It printing, it will again 3 is less than equals to 5. So as you can see, your I is handling the number of rows. Your I is 2, you have printed 2 lines. Your I is 3, it will print 3 lines, 4 and 5. So total 5 lines of stars. And how many inner number you have set for your star to print the number of columns? It's 10. So it means every row will have 10 stars. And depending on the J value, that's how every time it will set back to 1. Any questions so far? So let's run our code and see. Let me clear all the drawing and let's run our code. Let me close the So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, and every line have 10 stars. What you can do is you can put this whole code, Control X, outside of your main method and create public static void stars. And inside you can ask for the I value and you can ask for the J value. So you can say int I, int I semicolon, colon, int J, like that. And then starting curly braces, ending curly braces, Control V, and remove this integer because we are getting the values from, you can get the values from user. And now your star can be variant, like you can say when you make a call stars, and then you can say number of rows. I want to change number of rows. My number of rows will be, let's say 12, and comma, I want every row will have how many stars? Let's say 6 stars in every column. You put a semicolon. No other changes so far. No, sorry, you'll make a change. So I and J are your parameters now. Okay, so your code is still going to print 1 and 5, so it's not making a change. What you need to do is you need to change your variable names. Let's say change this I and J to something else, N and K. And so let's int I will be equals to 1 and I will be less than equals to N, which is number of rows, and J will be less than equals to K, and declare J as int J. So let's see what will be the output with this code with these values. So as you can see, what we have, okay, so what we have over here is we have 12 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and we have 6 stars in every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stars in every row. So that's how you can change your values. That's how the pattern is changed. Any questions so far?